Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every week we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. I'm your host, John, joined today, as always, by my co-host, Kristen. Kristen, how are you doing today?
Hi, John. I'm doing well. What? You said Kristen, so I'm saying John.
Uh-huh. It just sounded funny to me.
Oh, okay. I'm good. It's allergy season. And we've been a little sick lately. So if you hear a little sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna do our best to cut him out. Hopefully we don't cough over one of each other. We're feeling better, but this weekend we were feeling it, and right now we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. So we know we got to get some content out because the league is fast approaching. The league year starts 2 weeks from today. So there's a lot of content we want to get through. And the subject matter of today is going to be our first 3 team snapshots, looking at rosters of some of the lower teams as we work our way up to who had the best record in the league over this series. So this is going to consist of 4 episodes or so. We'll do each team for about 10 to 15 minutes, talking about their general league history, some like big timeline items, what their roster is going to maybe look like this year, some of their best players, some of their big awards. So today we'll be going over the Fever, the Storm, and the Mercury. So in reverse order of that. But before we get into that, there is some league news. The other day, Candace Parker, who is one of the best players to ever take the court for the WNBA, retired. Kristen, do you know much about Candace Parker? Do you know any facts about Candace Parker?
I don't know that many facts about Candace Parker. I know she was on the Aces and originally was on the Sparks. She was the first overall draft pick whenever she was drafted. Not sure what year. But I know she's been very good.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess it was a surprise that she retired. People didn't know.
Right. So Candace Parker, who is, I would definitely consider her to be a face of the league. One of probably the 5 best, 3 best. I don't exactly know where people have her in their lists. But yeah, Candace joined the league in 2008. She retires after 16 seasons in the league.
Which seems like a lot to me.
It is a lot.
It seems like, yeah, she probably was going to retire soon.
Mm-hmm. But in doing research for these different team rosters and whatnot, when I'm looking at the Mercury, Diana Taurasi, who is another top player in league history, she's been in the league for 19 years, and she's returning and playing for her 19th year on a very bad Mercury team, so kind of interesting. But she was also hurt last year. But that's what happens when you play 19 years of basketball, of professional basketball. Yeah, I guess Candace was ready to hang it up. But before we get into our subject matter, I just want to talk about some of Candace's bigger awards, react to what you are about to learn, because she has a long list. I won't talk about all the international awards. You should just check the Wikipedia page because it's a ton of international, a ton of Russian awards. Like she's won the league like 5 times.
She played in Russia?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
That's where the money is.
Okay.
Apparently. So she joins in 2008. She wins Rookie of the Year. She's all defense. She's all WNBA. And she wins League MVP. Her first year.
MVP, her first year?
Correct.
How does she win Rookie of the Year and MVP?
Someone can fact check me. I don't think that's been done in the NBA. Maybe one time. And I don't remember who. But it's extremely rare. You have to come in and be amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, just soak that in, because I'm like looking at it and I had to do it like a triple take. I was like, that says League MVP 2008.
Yeah.
And if it's incorrect, check me, please. But that's what it says.
Wow.
In 2009, she won a Kids' Choice Award.
Oh, nice. She
That's
got
big.
a little blimp.
She got a little blimp. She got slimed, most likely. I don't know. Hopefully. I mean, I would assume they invited her on the
they
stage.
slimed her.
Oh. In 2013, she won another league MVP.
Okay.
So she's like a 2-time league MVP. In 2020, she won Defensive Player of the Year. So clearly
wow.
she came in as a strong defensive player, but it took her till 2020.
But even like an MVP award, that's typically awarded to an offensive player.
Sure.
So she can do both.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she was all defense and all NBA.
Yeah.
All WNBA.
Oh, okay.
In her first year. So she clearly can produce on both sides. And then she had 3 league championships. 2016, where she was the finals MVP. 2021 and 2023. So 2023 was last year.
Last year?
Yeah, well, she was with the Aces.
Oh, okay.
When you were doing the research for the Aces, remember Kristen was like looking at a roster and they were like, newly healthy Candace Parker looking to dominate again in 2024. And it's like, oh, they don't know yet that she's retiring.
Okay.
And so 3 rings, couple MVPs, 7-time All-Star, which is surprisingly short. You would think she would have been an All-Star every single year. But I don't know how the All-Star works for WNBA. But yeah, that's a screenshot of Candace Parker.
Yeah, that's crazy.
An incredibly impressive
I'm
player.
curious to know if there's a lot of like doubling up on MVPs. Like, is it typical that one person will win MVP multiple times?
Yeah, like a Jokic situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
I
I
don't
guess is what happens in the NBA too.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I haven't looked. At least hers were spread out. So I figure probably not. They probably have a little more variance in their voting year to year. But I don't know. Candace Parker.
Wow, great.
Very good player. Hope she does something cool in and around the league now that she's hung it up. But excited to see. And
sad to have not seen you play.
Agreed. But yeah, after that, why don't we get into our team snapshots? We're going to start with the Phoenix Mercury, who were the worst team in the league last year, with a record of 9-31. So they played 40 games. They only won 9.
Wow, that is really horrible.
Really rough. If I'm not mistaken, Chris,
yeah,
he's a Mercury fan.
He did say, sadly, I'm a Mercury fan.
But they've been really successful historically. So it's going to be interesting. Like, I'm going to read you down some of the timeline items. You're going to be like, man, they're just in a bad spot right now. They'll get better. So the Mercury were one of the original 8 franchises of the W. We learned that last week. And if you haven't checked it out, check out the Happy Birthday WNBA podcast that we recorded, where we talk a little bit about the history of women's basketball and how the W was created. So the Mercury come in, their head coach, Cheryl Miller, familiar with Cheryl Miller, sister of Reggie Miller.
Oh, okay, sure.
Who we'll maybe do an episode about her in the future. Cheryl Miller scored 105 points in a basketball game.
Oh, yes, queen.
Pretty insane. But she was their head coach as they started in 1996, or 97, I guess. And they got out to a pretty hot start. They went to a finals appearance in 1998, losing to the Comets. And they struggled a little bit in 99, and Cheryl stepped away in 2000 after losing in the semifinals. So immediate playoff success, like they're immediately a good team, but there's also only 8 teams until they expand in 2000. After a few difficult years, that's when the Mercury have their first pick in 2004. That's when the Mercury have the first pick in 2004 when they draft Diana Taurasi, who I mentioned earlier is a 19-year veteran of the league. Pretty insane.
She's still on the Mercury?
She's still on the Mercury. She's their starting point guard. She's one of the best guards in league history.
Oh, wow.
Pretty insane situation. They won their first championship in 2007 when they beat the Detroit Shock, who are no longer in the league, in 5 games. This is where I learned that the playoff situation, they do 5-game series instead of 7. So in the NBA, it's 7. WNBA, it's 5. They win this championship in 5 games. So it goes down to the wire. They beat Detroit. In 2009, they win another championship, beating the Fever in 5 as well. So some exciting playoff runs in the mid-2000s for the Mercury. Then they have a few low years, and then they trade one of their better players in league history, in team history, Cappy Poindexter, I think. Cappy? Or maybe it's Pondexter. I don't know for sure.
Cappy.
But the Mercury then receive another first overall pick in 2013. And that's when they draft Brittany Griner, who's been another one of their best players in team history. Brittany Griner, if you're unfamiliar with her, which is pretty hard because she was a national news story. I'll talk about that in a little bit. 6'9", like huge, like maybe the tallest person in the league. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody with taller. Like Cordoso, who just joined, is 6'7". Griner is 6'9". But immediately comes in and like all rookie, kind of the same way that like Candace Parker dominated, Griner dominated like right away. Helps the team go to the finals in 2013 where they lose. So they don't win, but they go to the finals immediately. Griner's like an immediate impact person. And then the next year, Griner and the team made it all the way to the finals again where they swept the Chicago Sky. And Taurasi wins her second finals MVP. So that marks their 3 championships. They're at the top of the league, basically tied with Houston. Houston had 4, I believe. They had 3. Houston Comets, who are no longer there.
Okay.
They had 3, and another team had 3. I think Seattle might have had 3, if I'm not mistaken. But they haven't won since 2014, despite having Taurasi.
I mean, look, that's not that long ago.
Oh, no. In the grand scheme, it's 10 years.
Yeah.
But
when you think of teams that haven't won in a long time, in general, it's not that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And they've been a consistent playoff team. Like it's no wonder that they're an appealing team to follow if you're getting in, because you have this Griner, Taurasi, like front court, back court, like dynamic big player, dynamic guard. That's like what people like to see.
Yeah. And like honestly, they have the prettiest colors of any team. Right.
You told us last time.
I'm saying it again.
You love the Phoenix, the purple and orange.
If I picked a team only on the jerseys, it would be the Mercury.
You know, I mean, I get it. We love the like sunset type of vibe, the valley, as they call it. In 2020, they traded for All-Star guard Skylar Diggins-Smith, if you've heard of that name before.
No.
I've heard that name. I don't know what her effect was, but she was a major threat as far as scoring for the team. It gave them a huge boost. They made the finals again in 2021, but they dropped to the Sky.
Well, I wonder what they did during COVID. What did the WNBA do?
I think they just played less games. Because looking at it, like, some seasons are 40 games. Some seasons are 32 games.
Yeah, but didn't the NBA go into the summer? In Disney?
Yes. That was when
They probably said, screw the W.
They might have. They sure as hell might have.
We should look that up.
And then, of course, without getting into too much detail, Griner in 2022...
Yeah.
Arrested for possession in Russia. Crazy story. She's in Russia for what could have been 9 years. They were threatening to keep her there for 9 years. And the U.S. government ultimately does like a terrorist swap for her safety, which, like, glad she's here. That whole story is crazy and ridiculous, and she shouldn't have been there. Oh, she shouldn't have been detained. It's crazy though.
She shouldn't have to play in Russia.
She shouldn't have to play in Russia, and that's like the point. That's the big argument. Like, there should be better salaries for these players, who, especially the best players in the league, like Brittany. But fortunately, she's back.
Well, depending on when this podcast comes out, there's a special interview with her.
Yes.
On ABC Wednesday, May 1st.
Yeah. So you should be listening to this probably that same night, I would imagine, or one of the days shortly after. If you want to check that out, I'm sure it's going to be a great interview. We're going to check it out. We're not going to record anything for the pod. But, like, strongly encourage. Griner, good person, as far as I know. Like, didn't deserve what she got. So, kind of sad. But she's with the team and she's playing. And that's good. And yeah. So, that's basically the story of the Mercury as they stand. 9 games last year. They project to be, a tough team, a lower team this year, I think. They've struggled through injuries and coach changes. And if you're looking forward to following Phoenix this year, it looks like their starting 5 projects to be Taurasi as their starting point guard, with either Natasha Cloud, who went to high school in my hometown, not to my school, but the other high school that was in my hometown. Oh. Pretty cool. She also rang the bell at a Sixers game that we were at a couple weeks ago, which was crazy. Like, as we were starting this podcast, WNBA bell ringer, very cool. So Natasha Cloud or Kalia Cooper, starting at the shooting guard. Small forward, Rebecca Allen. Power forward, Morgan Birch. And Brittany Griner starting at the 5, which is the center. So that's what I have for the Phoenix Mercury. We'll see what happens with them as we get into the league year, and we'll hopefully bring on our Phoenix Mercury fans.
It's crazy that they have 2 really good players.
Well, yeah, 2 really good players.
And they're still, going to be bad. I
mean, they were really good. They, like I said, consistent playoff appearances. They just couldn't break through.
Yeah.
And, they won it. Getting any championship at any time is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's Phoenix Mercury for you.
Okay.
What do we got next?
Well, next we're going to go to the 11th place team last year, which is the Seattle Storm. The Seattle Storm was founded in 2000. They were one of the 4 teams that joined in 2000. And something that I didn't realize before, but I saw it this week, was a lot of those original WNBA teams were owned by the NBA team that was in the city.
Right.
So the Storm was owned by the Supersonics.
And that's interesting because the Supersonics aren't around anymore.
I know. That's really interesting.
Do you know, is it the same owner? Is it the Sonics owner still? Like the original Sonics owner?
No, I don't know.
Dat, if you're listening, let us know.
Yeah. They had actually the first pick in the 2001 draft and the 2002 draft. They drafted Lauren Jackson in 2001.
Don't know her.
Who was a center. And then they drafted Sue Bird in 2002.
Oh, well, we all know Sue Bird.
Mm-hmm. Sue Bird just joined the ownership team.
Oh, of the Storm.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
This week.
I love that. Oh, this week?
Yeah, she just did it.
That's big news.
Uh-huh. So they end up winning the finals championship in 2004 with those 2 players. And then they also win in... Oh, they've won 4 times. 2004, 2010, 2018, and 2020.
There you go.
So I guess whatever they did in 2020, the Storm won.
So they're tied with Houston for 4 wins. And then the Mercury have 3 wins below that. Very cool. So yeah, they're historically great.
Yeah.
From what I know. But it sounds like they've been struggling recently. Kind of similar to the Mercury. Struggling in the last couple of years, I guess.
Yeah, winning in 2018 and 2020. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'd think I guess you just trade your players, but I guess Sue Bird retired.
Yeah.
When was that?
Let's see. Yeah, if I remember correctly, Sue retired in 2022. So she wasn't there for 23 last year, which is why they probably only win 11 games.
Right.
And she's not going to be there again, but she's going to be part of the ownership team. I wonder if that shifts their fortunes a little bit.
So in 2016, they drafted Breanna Stewart.
Well, there you go. Another GOAT.
Right, which obviously helped them win in 2018. Stewart won Oh, Stewart won the finals MVP and the regular season MVP
In 2018?
in that year.
Very cool.
2020, Seattle returned to the finals where they swept the Aces.
Really? Wow, so the Aces have really had a hell of a run.
Yeah.
Finals recently, because they won last year. They won in 2022. They were in the finals at least in 2020.
Yeah.
Don't know about 21, but
That's wild.
yeah.
So Brianna Stewart won her second finals MVP in 2020. They had winning records in 2021 and 22, but failed to advance past the semifinals. And then Sue Bird retired, and Brianna Stewart left to join the Liberty. So since those two have left,
There you go.
last year wasn't great.
Yeah. That's tough. And I don't know, like, how do they project this year? I might not know any of their starting five.
Well, let me tell you some things they've done in this off season.
Ooh.
So, from a source that I have found, this guy says 9 months ago, the
This guy.
the Seattle Storm were the worst team in the league. Now they're looking like a dark horse in the title race.
Really?
Apparently,
Hmm.
they signed Skylar Diggins-Smith.
Okay. Well, there you go. Talked about her.
You just said.
Yeah.
Okay, so they signed her. They signed NECA.
Okay.
I don't know how to
Agumuka?
pronounce. Yeah,
Yeah.
they signed her. They drafted Nika Mule.
Yeah,
and
Nika.
Mackenzie Holmes. Oh, but Mackenzie Holmes is treating an injury this year, so she's not signing this year.
Oh.
They,
You can do that? You can get drafted and not sign?
I guess.
Huh.
So they arguably had the two biggest free agent signings of the year that instantly are changing their prospects for the team this year.
Okay.
Skylar and Jewel. Oh, Jewel is another player on the team. Playing together might be the most exciting thing this season, not named Caitlin Clark.
Wow. Huh. So mad props then to Seattle. Seattle's looking to be an exciting team. See? Shame on me. I don't even know. And that's what we're learning. We're learning that these teams are to be excited. Like, you see 11 wins and you're like, you're probably going to be bad next year, right?
Right. No, it was just
not.
a little, they just needed a little.
Just needed a week. Hey, look, I should know how to tank.
Exactly.
It seems like these WNBA teams know how to tank. Some of these records are crazy.
True. So it just seems like they have a really strong first top six, and then it just kind of, the bench isn't really great. But it seems like the projected starters are Skylar Diggins-Smith, point guard, Sammy Whitcomb, shooting guard,
Yeah, okay.
Jewel Lloyd, who's a small forward, Ezzy Magbegor,
Okay.
power forward, and then NECA
As their center.
as the center.
Okay. NECA, I feel like NECA's usually on like ESPN stuff. Like, she's around. That's a name that I knew. So
Yeah. Apparently, Jewel Lloyd led the league in scoring last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Does it say how much?
No.
How much she's all right. That's fine.
So that's the Seattle Storm. I would also like to say that their colors are also great.
Yeah, green and yellow.
They have like a dark green and a brighter green and yellow. I love those two greens. Very pretty. The logo's pretty. And I did just look up. Every team has a Rebel Edition jersey, which is like the city jerseys.
Yeah.
6 of them just have changed them,
Okay.
which are the new ones. So the Storm has a new one. And I think it looks pretty good.
Oh, and Phoenix also had one.
Yeah.
I think that was, Kristen described the colors.
Obviously great.
Yeah.
So we love that energy.
Nice. Well, thank you for telling me about the Seattle Storm. I've always liked the history of the Sonics. I think the Sonics are a cool, designed team. Obviously, they have not been in the NBA for a long time. So the fact that they're still, a Seattle team for the WNBA
Yeah, that's honestly
feels
great.
like a hole
Yeah.
in my tummy.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if anyone ever wants to talk about the move of the Seattle Supersonics to Oklahoma City, I love that topic.
Like, yeah.
But it's very cool that they like let the women stay in Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. Okay. So I'll cap us off. We got one more team for today. The Indiana Fever, who we've talked plenty about so far. You know, they have the Caitlin Clark of it all. But let's learn a little bit of the history of the Indiana Fever. The Fever have won the Eastern Conference 3 times, and they've won championship.
Okay.
So, look, championships, flag, banners fly forever. Mm-hmm. So you can't take that away from them.
No.
So they also entered the W in 2000, so they entered with Seattle.
Okay.
The team was owned by Herb Simon, who was also the owner of the Pacers, like you said. An interesting fact there. This is a shame to me because the owner of the Sixers, Josh Harris, is a bozo, and I'm not afraid. He's not listening to this podcast.
He's never owning a WNBA team.
He owns the Sixers. He owns the Flyers. Sorry, he owns the Devils. And he owns the Washington Commanders.
Boo.
Because he wants to make some sort of tri-state area sports conglomerate.
Dummy.
Stupid. Sell the team.
Screw him.
Get me an owner that wants to invest in the W. But anyway, that's enough complaining about the Sixers.
It has to be Jeffrey Lurie.
Well, he's, a guy that very much cares about Philadelphia. I don't know how much he cares about basketball. But if he cared half as much about basketball as he does about the Eagles, then we would have had a WNBA team 25 years ago.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, when they entered the league, the Fever were 9-23. So they had a 9-win season.
It seems like what just happens.
Sure. And for reference, this year they were 13-27.
Okay.
So bad, not the worst, but 9-win seasons appear like a bunch of times when I'm looking at these histories. They were worse in the league that year, in 2000, which guaranteed them a high pick in the next draft. They used that draft to take Tamika Catchings, who entered the league hurt and wouldn't help the team until they made their first playoff push in 2002.
Okay.
So Catchings is out, but it's fine.
For 1 year.
You're like developing, you're figuring it out. Yeah, for multiple years. So they make their playoffs for the first time in 2002, which is their first little taste of success. And then from 2005 to 2016, the team made the playoffs every single year.
Wow.
A 12-year run.
Wow.
Pretty cool. Love that. That's exciting. We love teams that
How many teams make the playoffs? Half?
I believe it's top 4 in each conference. So...
so it's really like...
So 8 out of 16.
12.
God, there's only 12 teams. Yeah.
So it's not like that hard.
No, it's not that hard.
But still, that's great.
Like, for reference, I learned that the Chicago Sky, won a championship a couple years ago and made the playoffs with a 16-16 record. Just 500. That's crazy to me.
I mean, that happens in, baseball.
Yeah, but they play 162 games as opposed to 32.
40.
Oh, well, it was 32 then. 40
Okay.
now. So, yeah, they had this run. They make their first finals appearance in 2009, where they lose to the Mercury, which we learned.
Okay.
In 2012, they carried a 22-12 record into the playoffs, where they went on to beat the Lynx in 4 games to win their first and only championship, where Tamika Catchings was the MVP of the finals with an impressive 22, 6, and 4 stat line. Really, really good performance in that series. Clear that she's one of the best players in their team history. But like I said, that's their one banner, 2012. Mm-hmm. But Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, could be looking at another title any day now, basically. In 2015, they returned to the finals, going on to lose in a rematch to the Lynx. So we got that little... There must be a little bit of head-to-head, even though Eastern-Western.
Okay.
But
But there's not that many teams, so...
We love a rematch. We love a rematch. Not,
I don't.
Not back-to-back years, but after a
Sure.
couple years, it's
Yeah.
like, oh. And especially when the other side wins, as long as it's not your side going into the rematch, it's cool if the other team, like, gets the upper hand on the other one. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So, like, Fever take the first one, Lynx, they get their back 3 years later. In the following year, in 2016, they get bounced in round 1, and that's when Tamika retires. So Tamika steps away from the league after 15 or 16 years, and that ultimately forced the team down toward the bottom of the league. And get this, in 2022, the Fever posted a 5-31 season.
Ugh.
5 wins.
God.
That is like crazy.
Wait, how? 35 and
They
31?
played 36 games in 2022, and they play 40 games now.
Okay.
So they're clearly stepping it up a little bit, which is good. That means I would imagine, is good for their salaries or projects to be good for their salaries. They're making more money per game. They should be.
Well, unless they're not.
They should be. That's all I'm saying. And that's what led them to the Aaliyah Boston pick, because in last year's draft, they had the first overall pick. They take Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina, and then they're bad again. They get the first overall pick. They take Caitlin Clark, so back-to-back first-round picks, which is something that you said Seattle had early in the league history.
And then they won.
So
Okay, we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. So they had a good offseason. I mean, they add Caitlin, they add Celeste Taylor, and they add Leilani Correa in the draft. And from what it appears on ESPN, they haven't done anything else. But ESPN also didn't show that they had signed Caitlin. So, like, ESPN, I have a gripe. They're like, ESPN, I was looking for depth charts. Literally, like, the most basic thing to, like, tell me how the roster's organized, how many guards, how many forwards, how many centers. They don't have freaking depth charts for the WNBA. It's, like, ridiculous. So ridiculous. And, like, update. Caitlin signed on, I think she signed her contract on the 28th. I was looking at this on the 28th. Caitlin Clark is going to be, like, a top 10 most important player in the league next year, if not top 1. I don't know. I don't want to make judgment calls. Update your freaking website. Like, take a moment, have a couple people responsible for the WNBA and update your freaking website.
They don't care.
I've had enough of them not caring. Bozos.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Of course, you can watch the games on ESPN, so check it out. They add those 3 in the draft. And then, as it looks like, Caitlin's going to be the only one to start. Their projected starting 5 is Caitlin at point guard, Kelsey Mitchell at shooting guard, Katie Lou Samuelson at small forward, Nelisa Smith at power forward, and Aaliyah Boston playing center. So, exciting team in Indiana over there. They sold out their season tickets. They have City Connector or Rebel jerseys, which look kind of like...
They don't have new ones.
Oh, they don't?
These, no.
But they've had them.
Yeah, these are the ones everyone has.
It's... Okay.
They kind of, all of them are just like black with like one color stripe. Unless they're like updating it this year. So some of them are different.
Oh, so their old Rebel uniforms was like a black with red, like a fever. So like...
I mean...
I don't know. Like Scarlet Fever type of
I
going?
like the navy. I like the logo. It's not really giving fever, though.
No.
I need more from it.
How do you give fever?
I don't know. I'm not a graphic designer. But I'm just saying it's not giving fever.
Navy, blue, red, and gold. I guess.
like those colors. I like the colors a lot. The jerseys, kind of boring to me. I don't know what that is.
Looking at their jerseys, there's the heroine jersey, the explorer jersey, and the rebel jersey.
Yeah, that's what they're called.
So heroine is the away jersey, explorer is the home jersey.
I don't know.
I guess, or the other way around. That's interesting.
Yep. Yeah, every team has those 3.
Well, I like the color situation.
I like the colors.
I'm with it. But anyway, that's everything I have for the Fever.
Okay.
So that's our first 3 teams, everybody. We're going to do this with the rest of the teams in the league. But again, we're just going from bottom to the top on how they did last year. There will be 3 more of these podcasts with 3 teams a pop. So we hope you enjoyed listening to it. Kristen, I don't have anything else to say. We've got other ones to record, so we're going to get right into that, right?
Yeah, I think that's really all I had to say. Let me look. I've been just like, whenever I see news, I just like screenshot it.
Yeah.
So let me see if I have anything else.
It's been a lot of news. We've again, if you'd like to reach out, you can email us at attackthebaseline@gmail.com. I've gotten a couple followers on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at pigeonhat, PIDGEONHAT. If you'd like to follow me, so you can see when episodes go live, I will post a link and retweet so you know that things are happening. Looks like Kristen's got a screenshot with some key dates.
No,
I don't know.
We don't have to talk about it right now.
Anyway, hope you enjoyed the episode today. Again, if you want more team history, there's another episode about the history of women's basketball that we really enjoyed recording. I had a great time with it. It was a lot of fun. But again, we'll be back with the next 3 teams shortly. You'll see it in a couple days. But, Kristen, what do we say every time when we see that baseline? What do we do?
Attack it.
That's right. Anyway, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.